Okay.
Right? So
I was thinking.
yeah, that's all right. Yeah, that's all right. So God came to apply the law and said, you have sinned, therefore you shall be kicked out and you're punished. This is your punishment to the woman, to the man, to the serpent, right?
Yeah.
All of that happened. God, applied the law. So there was one judge, and the judge was God.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're dealing directly with God here, right? When Cain killed Abel, who came?
God.
That's right. There was one judge.
Yeah.
There was no prophets. There was nothing. There was no mediators. There was nothing. It was God Himself. He will come. He will judge you.
Yeah.
When the whole earth sinned, at the time of Noah, who turned up to judge it?
God.
There was no prophets.
Yeah.
Right? No judgment. No. Why? There was a law. Everybody knew the law, and that's why they knew they sinned.
Yeah.
Right? And so okay. So the question becomes, what was the law, and who knew the law? Right?
Isaac.
Who knew the law?
Mm-hmm.
Isaac wasn't even born.
Oh, okay.
So who knew the law? And who is that God testified that this guy is a righteous person? What does a righteous person mean? A person who keeps
the law.
the law, abides by the law of God, right? And who was the righteous person when everybody sinned in the world at that time? Who was the righteous one?
Abraham.
Noah.
Oh, Noah. Okay. Yes.
Right? Noah. Noah was the only, and his family was the only righteous person keeping the commandments of God and following the law of God. Right? Now, let's go to chapter 9 of Genesis. So in chapter 6, God turns up and speaks to Noah, right? Alone. And he tells him to build an ark, and then his family follows him and all that. In chapter 9, the situation is a little bit different. So they come out of the ark, and from verse 1, somebody read, yeah?
And God blessed Noah and his sons, and said unto them, Be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth. And the field.
So here we have the same commandment that was given to Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
Be fruitful, multiply, and replenish the earth, because the earth has been wiped out. So who did he speak to in this occasion?
No.
Read again. And his sons.
Yeah.
Important. Not just Noah, but Noah and his sons. Who are his sons? Who are the sons of Noah?
Ham,
And Seth.
Ham, Shem, and Japheth. Or
Yeah.
Japheth. Ham, Shem, and Japheth. Okay? So these are the three sons of Noah. And they were with their wives, right? So there was 8 people that were saved. And they were given the commandment to replenish the earth, right? So let's read on.
and the fear of you, and the dread of you, shall be upon every beast of the earth, and upon every fowl of the earth, upon all that moveth upon the earth, and upon the fishes of the sea. Into your hands are they delivered.
Yeah, one moment. When Adam and Eve, he's talking about the fear, right? That everybody will fear it. Who? Will fear Noah and his sons.
Oh.
When Adam and Eve sinned, and Adam hid himself. What did he say? What did Adam say to God when God said, "Where are you, Adam?"
He said, I'm hiding.
Yeah.
I'm hiding because I'm naked. I'm
You're
afraid.
naked, yeah.
I'm afraid.
Mhm.
I'm afraid.
Yeah.
So the fear was not from man. The fear was for God.
Uh-huh.
Everybody feared God.
Yeah.
Right? Man had no authority, had no fear above on the animals and everyone. But in this time, we see God is changing things from here on. He's saying the fear that they have towards me, they will have towards you. All the animals will fear you,
Okay.
right? And read on, read on.
Every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you, even as green herb have I given you all things. But flesh with the life, therefore, which is the blood, thereof shall ye not eat. And surely your blood of your lives will I require at the hands of every beast, will I require it, and at the hands of men, at the hands of every man's brother, will I require the life of men.
Okay, so we have to notice two things here. That in Judaism, right, it says that we should not eat blood or animal that has blood in it. And in Christianity also that carried on. This was before Moses. Not just the Sabbath, but you can see here that this is also before Moses, right? That so you're gonna eat, but he's given permission. Before human beings were vegetarians, apart from Cain's group, human beings were vegetarians. The ones in the camp of Adam, not the Cain camp, the Adam's camp, right? So the human beings were vegetarian, but he now gives them the right to eat the flesh of animal,
Okay.
right? And so, but he says, do not eat the blood, and that's there's a reason behind that, because why don't we eat the blood? Is because the breath, the living breath, or it says nefesh, which is breath, which is translated from Greek as soul, because psyche is Greek. When they came to translate to the nefesh to Greek, they said, oh, this is psyche. But it's not psyche, it's actually the breath of God. It's the air that came out from the mouth of God into the and breathed the living soul into the Adam, right? And so that's the breath that we're talking about. Where does this scientifically? Where does this breath go? When we take a breath, where does it go? It goes into our lungs, straight into our bloodstream, right? You close your nostrils for 2, 3, 4 minutes, and you're dead because there's no breath, right? So the breath of God, the living, right, breath is in our blood, in our bloodstream. Therefore, we're not to eat the blood. We're not to eat the blood, because that's the breath of God. It represents the breath of God, where the breath of God is. So now that's a law before Moses. That's a law before anything. Now the reason why I brought you here is because I want to show you where the law came. So next, from the verse we go from 5. From 5, verse 5. Yes.
From verse 5. And surely your blood of your lives will I require at the hands of every beast, will I require it, and at the hand of men, and at the hand of every man's brother will I require the life of men. Whosoever sheddeth man's blood, by men shall his blood be shed. For in the image of God made he men. And ye be fruitful and multiply.
That's it.
Bring
So-
forth abundantly.
That'll do. So here he's saying, I give the authority to you. If somebody kills somebody, right, the men will kill that guy.
Okay.
So what does that mean? That means God gave the capital punishment, which is the highest form of law, to man. He gave the law to kill animals. So he is withdrawing from the earth and leaving the government and the law in the hand of man.
Okay.
That's where the law started. And then after this incident, what happened is that nations were formed and all that. The first law that was codified was the Code of Hammurabi, right? Which was the Assyrian law. And that was something like 1,000 years, 500 to 1,000 years before Moses, right? In fact, I think it's 500 years before Moses, right? So if we go 500 years before Moses, that means it's 100 years after the existence of Abraham. So the Code of Hammurabi was there, and when the Code of Hammurabi, and who's the Assyrians? They are Ashur. They are Ashur is the grandson of Noah from Shem, right? And he established the law. He wrote the law. They were the first ones that created cuneiform writing, right? And they were the first ones that put things in writing. And until today, we have the Code of Hammurabi, which is 100 years before Abraham, 500 years before Moses, right? Is actually displayed in the English Museum, because when they occupied in Iraq in 1918, after the First World War, they took a lot of stuff out, and some of it are in English Museum, some of them in France, some of them in Germany, right? And the Code of Hammurabi that predates Abraham and Moses is there. Why is the Code of Hammurabi important? Because the stories for instance, the story of why was Abraham allowed to marry his slave, the slave of his wife. The law states in those things in Syria, and the law was that if a man who is married to a woman, free woman and free man, and that woman has a slave girl, and if the woman is barren, then she can give the slave girl, that was the law that he applied, right, in his life, and she can give the slave girl to her husband, and whatever child she has is actually the child of the woman, not the child of the slave.
Yeah.
Right? So she's only a surrogate mother in this case.
Yeah.
So Ishmael was the actual child of Sarah, not of legally, right? Speaking. So basically, and that slave remains the slave of the woman, right? And the child also is her child. She can do whatever she likes with them. But God had promised Abraham that He will give him a son, and it was Isaac. And so when God had given Isaac, Sarah suddenly said, I don't want that. Kick him out. Now, she has the right to do so. But if she did not take that option, what was her option if she did not take that option? That means he can go and get a free woman, and that woman, when she has a child, she will be number one and Sarah will be number two.
Okay.
So that was her guarantee that she will stay around number one. And when she did not need that guarantee anymore, she kicked him out.
Okay.
Right? And when Abraham was annoyed at this, he went to God. God said, listen to Sarah, because what's good for the goose is good for the gander. This is the law that you applied. So you need to apply it to the end. Right? You can't. And why did he have to apply the law? Because when Sarah dies, we find out that he was a judge amongst the people, and he used the same law.
Okay.
Right? They saying to him, you are a prince and a judge amongst us, right? And they used to come, because he was a righteous man, most people, they wanted a good judgment. So they would go to Abraham,
Okay.
right? To receive a good judgment. So for him, when his wife says, kick him out, and he doesn't apply it, he's breaking the law.
Okay.
Right? That he is judging people by. And the other thing is when God turns up and he says to him, I'm going to give you a son. And at this point, he didn't even have Ishmael. He says, I'm dying and Eliezer will be my inheritance. They have tablets now. And this is, you can read that in a book called The Introduction of Old Testament by Bush and Hubbard. You can buy it from any Christian bookshop, and they have tablets in that that says in that book, it testifies that it has tablets that they have found that any rich man who dies and he hasn't got anybody to inherit, the head servant Eliezer was the qualified inheritant person to. That was the law at the time. That's why he's praying to God and saying, no, la 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 la, right? So when we read, and so therefore now we understand a little bit better what God said, what God is saying to what's his name, Isaac. Isaac was. God said that Abraham applied my laws and my commandments and everything, right? Because they already existed, right? And so what happened? Why do we have the law of Moses then? Like every laws that come, and they are all righteous, and suddenly the righteousness disappears, and we say, oh, marriage is not only between man and woman. Marriage is an institution between man and woman and animal and man and tree and man. So the laws get corrupted, right? And by the time Moses came, all laws were corrupted. The nations were corrupted. So what happened is God gave the pure law to Moses and said, you shall be a nation that abides by my law, which is the law from the beginning. And that is the story, right? So when somebody tells you this is for the Jews and not for this is not entirely true. It's not true at all, actually, right? Because nowhere in the Bible says that you have to keep Sunday. Nowhere. But yet Saturday not only says you have to keep it, but also that there are curses if you don't.
Yeah, that's what I was reading.
So basically, if you don't apply that, and even let me tell you something, as Christians, Jesus Christ himself, if he had risen on a Saturday, he would have broken the law, and he wouldn't have been a savior.
Okay.
Right? So therefore, he did not break the law, and he is a savior according to Christianity, right? Because he did not break the law, and he did not rise on a Saturday, right? Okay, does that satisfy
Yeah,
your?
that's very interesting.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
All right. All right. Thank you. Thank you for. If you have any other questions, we just close the meeting because I can talk forever.